depending on what side of the country you're on. I definitely appreciate you all joining us today. We have a pretty cool webinar today. What we really want to do is spend some time kind of getting back to the basics. You've probably all received a lot of emails. You've seen a lot of stuff at different trade shows, at different events that we have attended or hosted around the country in the past year. And we've announced a lot of new features. And of course, with that, expanding portfolio, we don't want anyone to think that we're, leaving out the companies that just want to perform basic warehouse transactions. That's still our core focus. That's still our core product line. And what we're going to do today is take you through the basic transactions. So as we're going through this, we want you to understand what one is. So one software basically is just combine the most advanced manufacturing warehouse management systems for Sage 100. And that's through 3 of the industry leaders coming together with Scanco, ACS, and JDB. So now you have a one-stop shop essentially for all of your warehouse management, your warehouse automation, and your manufacturing automation needs. One of the things that we are going to cover at the start of the demo is the introduction of MultiBin standard. Once again, as products evolve, they become larger and larger. So we have now come out with MultiBin standard, which is essentially the core functionality of MultiBin product. It's going to enable all of the features that you've come to know, that you've come to love, but without some of the enhancements that may not be necessarily a good fit for your organization. We're then, after that, going to cover the warehouse side with the handhelds. So we're going to go through, we're going to show you picking processes, we're going to show you some transfers, physical count, as well as the shipping processes all on the handheld and how all of that's automatically created. The reason I look into warehouse automation obviously is efficiency. There's a lot of gains in efficiency, a lot of gains in accuracy, and it's really going to allow that to be tracked not just through the warehouse, but also any manufacturing that you may have. Physical count times are being reduced by about 75%. Picking is going to be bumped up in the accuracy department as well as efficiency, and virtually eliminating all of your misshipments. So any items that are going out wrong, we're going to be able to catch those. So at this point, now that you kind of have an idea of what you're going to see today, we're going to turn this over to Ron and go through, through the actual software, and he'll be able to show you exactly what this means to you on the MultiBin side.
All right, thank you very much, Cody. I'm going to turn on my screen. Adrian, too, thank you very much for the introduction of us all. Thank you, too, for attending today. We know your time is very valuable, and we try to give you as much value as we can in these sessions. And as Cody explained, this is back to standards, or back to basics walkthrough. And if you know me, and I tend to be the techie guy around here, I always so often want to talk about the new stuff. So I'm going to do my best to restrain myself. That said, I will introduce you to the MultiBin standards wizard. So it's a new setup. That way you can turn on the system a little bit easier without looking at all our options and save a little bit of time. So that's it. I just want to give you a little introduction here to get us thinking about MultiBin and thinking about what you might want to do. We always get that question. I want to do MultiBin, and so we've been doing this for about 17 years now, and what we learned early on is when that customer says, I want to do MultiBin, they don't mean they want to destroy the efficiencies in their business. As you may know, today in Sage 100, if you do a distribution for lot serial, you have to have the right procedures in your operations to do that right, to properly select the lot serial number throughout the process. So when a customer says, I want to do multi-bin, well, essentially you're saying, I want to do lot serial distributions, but really multi-bin. So it's the same thing. And so the point here I want to make is what we did learn early on, and this in the back to basics and back to standards here, is we do want to talk about how we do overcome some of the efficiencies that you'll lose because you do multi-bin. And so that might help. There are many advanced features in the system which do that too. And but here, let me give you a little introduction to get you warmed up. And here you're looking at item maintenance, and you can see that we have a multi-bin tab here, and where you can see inventory by the different bin locations. And then we have location types, which help delineate the locations themselves. However, when you just start off and you're putting in bin locations, we normally refer to those as pick locations. But, you know, in Sage, when you're using Sage today, you often have this bin location, this one bin location. And we have found that around 50% of the users that we talk to, that this bin location is used as the primary location where you pick goods. Not all of you, don't throw down your phone, but half of you do. And that means maybe you have the standard unit measure in that location, maybe some case packs at times, but then the rest of your operation is set around secondary, third locations after that, and that's probably why you're looking for multi-bin. And then you might have overflow or backstock locations, and that's why, of course, you want multi-bin. But yet, your operations maybe conform to the software or whatever it might be, but you had the single location that Sage always printed out on your pick sheets. And so you've been trying to pick from there first. So that's what we do with these primary bin locations. Pick from there first. Maybe you want to put goods away there first. Maybe you want to pull materials out of there first if you're a manufacturer. So we have the primary bin location designation, and it's automatic when you turn on the system. So if you have these bin locations in Sage today, just when you turn on the system, we'll create those right away for you. And then we have some other location types like staging and like the overflow, the backstock, and that's just to help segregate your inventory for, well, one, reporting purposes, and two, so that it can help delineate your inventory, and three, maybe you want to rotate inventory out of your backstock into your primary pick locations. And with the standard version, you can still do that. Now, what you also see on here are region codes. And the advantage of region codes are to set up zones in your warehouse. Some businesses it's useful. As you grow, you might take advantage of it. But you can really set up your pick sheets to be separated by these regions. And that may not be the thing that you want to do today, but that's something you can do later. You have other things here, like last received date and the location. So if you do lot serial goods, you know Sage does a real good job on tracking the lot receipt date, not just by lot number of the oldest one first, but the lot receipt date, and that way you can get at the oldest one first. Well, what we do is we for your non-lot serial goods, you can choose to report or view inventory by the last received date. And that way you can age your inventory a little bit. And that way you're not always trying to pick the oldest one out of your, or the newest one out of your backstock. And of course, you'd probably want the newest inventory, or the inventory that you want to pick first in your primary pick locations. And what we have here too are other things like the location on hand on display here, what's allocated, and that could be nothing more than what's been selected on the handheld to be picked and to be shipped out. And so we can use this information then to help start you up and get you going fast with a nice, good multi-bin system. So what I've done is I've set up a fresh test company here in Sage, a new company. So this is going to be the introduction to the new wizard. And so all you got to do is after installing the software to enable it, you will come in here to the inventory will guide you to go in here to the multi-bin options. It will ask you, do you want to run the wizard? And then it will walk you through the features that users normally like. So for example, if you want to select just one warehouse code to be enabled for multi-bin, you can select that here. Some users like to turn off some product lines, but when you're turning on the system for the first time, you may not know what that might be, and that's fine. You can turn that off later. This option here takes you through to auto-create your primary bin locations, just like I was talking about earlier. Taking those locations out of the Sage pointing on hand screen and auto-create them and put your inventory in there right away. And that's what this explanation says. And this is what this checkbox will do for you. The other option we're providing here with one checkbox is to alert you when the stock status in a primary bin location goes low. And so what can happen is, as you're printing pick sheets, the system will gauge, you know, if you're running low in a primary bin location, and it will give you a warning and print out a report as you're printing pick sheets. A very easy option to turn on, obviously with a little checkbox right there. We help set you up with some staging locations, like for receiving, for shipping, quality control. Now, quality control, some businesses don't like full access to their users, to customer service, to get at that inventory. So what we do for quality control locations is we have a special option in the bin location that will restrict access. We call those pick restrictions. But with this checkbox in the wizard, it will automatically create one for you. So if you want to review it later or just utilize it right away, it will be right there for you. Now this option here, this is for directed picking. You would ordinarily not see this on a standard system. This is really used on the premium system. I'm enabled for premium, so that's why it's coming up. Excuse me. On the what you can do too, as you're using the system, like I said, you can auto-allocate inventory to bin locations to save time. If you recall, maybe I can receive goods into a bin location and select every bin location as I do the receipt of goods. And I'll show that here in a second, excuse me. But what you can do instead is auto-allocate it against maybe a receiving dock, or auto-allocate it against a primary bin location. And thus you can save time. So this wizard will walk you through to automatically do that. And you can do that for shipping too. This option here is for manufacturers. If you want to auto-allocate and exceed quantity available for raw materials. Some manufacturers actually like that. So maybe what they'll do is they'll take goods out of the raw material bin location and make it easy when they're doing data entry, so they don't have to stop and select other locations. they'll constantly draw goods out of a single bin location. I'll turn that off for right now. We give you choices on the pick sheets on how you want to print your available inventory or do wave picks, pick sheets, and we made it easy for you to make that available on your system here with the wizard. And then when I click finish, it's going to go ahead and enable that one warehouse I selected, and then it will go ahead and I'm ready to go. That's it. I can start doing my transactions. I can start using the handhelds. As proof of that, let me do a receipt of goods here. And so I selected ordinary purchase order, and then when I went from header to lines, it has an option here to receive complete into the warehouse. Now, normally Sage would say at this point, do you want to receive complete into a bin location or into a warehouse? But what we are doing is we give you a few extra choices. Maybe you don't want to receive complete, and then you want to click no. That's just like what you do today in Sage, nothing different. Now, this is what's a little bit different for a multi-bin user and a non-multi-bin user, is the distribution. So notice I put in the quantity received, and notice I got that exclamation mark, and that's telling me that I need to do a distribution on it. The total amount to bin locations doesn't equal the quantity received. That's consistent with the way Sage does lot serial today. If you do lot serial, you go, I know what that means. So by doing multi-bin for items that are not lot serial, you get this now. So if you do this, then you'll learn, you'll be good at lot serial transactions also. So what it also means is, like, if I were to hit enter through the line, which I'll do now, then it will pop up the screen and ask me the bin locations to put my inventory to. Now, some businesses like doing that. When they receive goods in, they might put them away, track the locations that they put them away to, and then the person doing receipt of goods data entry will select those locations in this screen. That's one way of doing things. Another way of doing things is putting it into the receiving dock and then later transferring it. Two-step process, but I'll explain that more in a second. I'll do another example on that here in a second. Meanwhile, distribution screen comes up like I promised, and let's say I put my goods away, track the location I put them to, and there we go. I received 10. That's it. I'm done. I received the 10 on that for the quantity received. I'll do one more. Same deal. Maybe this one is different, where I do something like this. Oops, there was 10 already. So you can select an infinite number of locations, put your goods away too, all good. We do note we do highlight a couple things for your convenience, primary bin locations and receivings. So if data entry, had that scenario, they can key it there too, if it was, important, or it made sense. So there, I'm going to cancel this one, and let me do that again. This time, let me use the feature to auto-assign a bin location. So as you recall, that primary bin location setup to an item that's in there now, because I automatically did it, and I can hit that primary button, and now notice I did in essence what you would say in Sage the regular receive complete on this transaction, on this receipt of goods. And so here I received my 10, and then now I can click on this distribution button, and I can see the primary bin location. There's no need to look at this. you know it's in balance because the exclamation mark is not there, right? How does a lot serial item look? The same. If you do lot serial today, you already know how to do multi-bin. So notice I selected a lot serial item, and we got our lot number. Now, what it was, it remembered the fact that I said, put goods to a primary bin location, and so it went ahead and put it in automatically for me in that one case. But if I did a lot serial item again, like this, then we can go lot 2, 3, 4, type in receiving, say I just got 5 of that. Let's say I got lot 2, 3, 4 again, but this one went into that location. I think you get the idea. All right. So a good example of doing receipt of goods where you're making use of some of these features of whether or not to automatically allocate goods or to manually select the location. Now, if you're not, these are features that you're worried about when you're not using handhelds. Now, Cody is going to show you here in a second that when you're doing a receipt of goods, that he's going to show you how, you do what's convenient there in the warehouse, but then everything in here is automatic. It's all done. You don't have to go in the screen. That's it. Update your receipt of goods register, you're done. Okay. So I got out of there. Now, another basic part in the system is moving goods around. How do I do that? And there are a few ways of doing that. One is we give you the ability to move goods on the fly when you're looking at your inventory. So like right now, I'm looking at my inventory in a bin location, and there it is, and we give you a couple ways of moving around the inventory. So here, so I'll click that first button. There's 2 buttons right there. And what I could do is select the bin location, hit proceed, done. And now there's an automatic audit trail back there. So now if I look at the location I transferred that to, now you can see there's actually 2 different items, similar item codes. And that's why we give you this other button. That's the second button right there, and we call that a group transfer. This allows you to move a lot of goods at the same time. I can select them by hitting the checkbox. I can hit the quantity picked. I can hit this green button. Now I select everything. And now let's say I want to move it all to another location, which I just did. And so now I moved all that inventory into another location just like that. I could add 1,000 items in there, and that was instantaneous. Well, this audit trail that we're doing, we're tracking who did what when. And it's not in the Sage files. We don't change any of the Sage files. All our enhancements in Sage are kept outside the base system, so we don't interfere with any of the Sage numbers, Sage quantity on hand. Everything is kept in the independent files, including the audit, the detail audit files for these transaction history. So if I did this on the handheld, it's using the same core program in the background, and it will move that inventory real time from one location to the other and have that audit trail. But what about transaction entry, transfers? In the multi-bin environment, we use this still to move inventory between different warehouses. A lot of businesses that have Sage users have multiple warehouses to help segregate their inventory, maybe for quality or WIP, or maybe reserving for customers. And so, in those situations where you have fake warehouses, you can still transfer the goods between different warehouses, but maybe you want to make use of the bin location now. And you can see you can save time by using those quick transfers, auto update features I was just showing you. and how you know, the inventory is reflected, you know, real time between the warehouse and the hand and in stage. So there's no delay. But it also, when you're moving goods here with the handheld between different warehouses, ScanCo provides an auto update feature for transaction register, so you're not delayed by that. And I know I'm going on and on here, but I'm trying to give you all the information as best without killing you. And so I can select the multiple warehouses here, just like I have here, or I can select just this one warehouse, 000 to 000, so I can do a transaction entry, transfer, just like that. Pull up my inventory, select it like this, and destination location, and there we go. And that's a transaction entry going from one bin location to another. If I were to go, and if I could just show you a transaction entry that has a little bit more inventory, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it over to Cody here, and he's going to pick it up, but just show you where you're going to have a little bit more inventory involved on that transfer. So I'll select the same item here, and this lookup is giving me the ability to, of course, select the inventory just like I just did, and you can see I have quite a bit going on here. By the way, you can have infinite number of locations. Your inventory can be an infinite number of locations. No problem about that. Okay, so I selected the bin location, and let's say I'm just going to do one and select the destination location like that. And so there you go. I did that, I put that in there to transfer. I can also click this button and utilize the grid. And this is, you know, notoriously named the load lots feature. And we use this also for MultiBin for non-lot serial goods, okay? And so I did one of 100 here, and I can get the rest of it. Whoops, I meant to go like that. And select a location like that. So, anyway, I can tell it's in balance. And so I can do these transfers between locations within the same warehouse or any other warehouse, even if it's not enabled for MultiBin. And we have it specifically designed so when the warehouse is not enabled, or remember the product line can be disabled also. It's so that we don't waste your time. It will, you know, it knows when to ask for a bin location or validate for a bin location throughout the entire system, and that includes the handhelds too. Just two more points here. So here I select the lot number. I select the lookup for the lot number. So we're not silly enough to say, oh gosh, you know, you're selecting the lot number here. We're going to go ahead and auto-fill the bin location too. So just because you now have MultiBin and you've been doing lot and serial numbers all along, we're going to default that location for you so you don't have added time. You can still go back and key in the lot number and alone and put in the bin location if you really wanted to. Still use the load lots feature, just like I was showing you a second ago. One other point I wanted to highlight is you've probably seen this pallet ID field. Integrated throughout the system are a suite of add-ons. They're called pallet ID, so you can do pallets, case packs, any number of items. And let me select something that has a little bit more on that. And so if I were to select this lookup here, now I get to see all my inventory that's either palletized or otherwise. So I could see this is all my palleted inventory. So you can see what's been, you know, quantity per pallet of the given item, and you can see what's allocated and is reserved on other sales orders or wherever. And then so if I'm on this lookup here, I'm looking at all the goods that are not palleted. Okay, and down here is a little default field. Say, oh, I just want to look at case packs. I can do that. as long as it's not showing my case packs in the system. And yes, this works with standard. It's not included with the standard, but you can still get the add-on for standard. You know, and there most of our add-ons, like for on the water and others, like lot serial for the vendor lot traceability, expiration date control, all that's still good with the standard version. And later, if you want to upgrade and update and get the premium version, which has been the version we've been selling for 17 years with the directed picking and directed put away features, you can still get that by paying the difference, and all the software is there. Just take for the activation code. But at least with the standard version, we're getting you off the ground. You're not paying for features you're not using today. And let me get this over to Cody. Thank you very much for coming again, and we hope you enjoy it. Cody, please.
Perfect. Thanks, Ron. So, you know, what we're going to do now is just kind of expand on what Ron just took us through. And we're going to take that out to the warehouse. And now that you've seen how it's done, we'll say on the office side, and how it'll be done if you choose not to use scanners in the warehouse. Now we're going to take you out to the mobile device, show you how these processes operate, and you'll definitely be able to see where that efficiency is gained. So what you're seeing here is, of course, our Sage 100 desktop. And then on the right, we have ScanCo Warehouse. ScanCo Warehouse is our warehouse automation product that runs on iOS, Android, and Windows Mobile. So you have a lot of options. You're not tied to your traditional devices. Our most popular device is actually an iPod Touch, like you're seeing here, inside of what's called a scan sled. Has a rugged housing, gives it a 4-foot drop spec, so it's going to be able to put up with a bit of abuse. And it's a fraction of the cost of those traditional devices that you may be used to. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the handheld here. And of course, I'm using a version installed on the desktop because it'd be hard for you to see my iPod if I was using that right now. I'm going to go ahead and log in. And once I log in, it's asking for a user ID and a password. So you can set up as many user IDs and passwords as you need for the logins for all of your employees. So you may only have 2 devices out in the warehouse or 5 devices, but you still have the ability for each employee to have their own login, which is important for tracing who performed which transaction. So that way, if there is a mistake made, you can see exactly who performed that transaction and what they actually sent into the system. I have my login password barcoded here, so I can just scan those. And we can also set up default companies in warehouses. So if you have multiple companies in your Sage system, you can give the warehouse users access to multiple companies, and they can just go ahead and accept the default or go in and choose one of the other companies. We'll accept the default today, and that brings us to our main screen. So obviously with this running on an iPod, it's touch-driven interface, buttons are large, real easy to learn, and we try to keep it as familiar to the operating system as possible to keep that learning curve down. So first transaction we're going to go into is going to be item inquiry. Once again, based on that login, it knows my default warehouse is 000. We'll go ahead and accept that. And now we have a few options. Inside of item inquiry, we can look up by item, by bin, or if we decide to go more advanced down the road, by pallet. Obviously today we're going to focus on the basics, so we're just going to focus on item and bin. There's 3 ways to get the information in the system. You can use the on-screen keyboard. You can do a lookup, which will actually show all the items in that warehouse. And of course, you can scan. I'll go ahead and scan my item. It'll show my description and my unit of measure. And you'll also notice here, if you have images in your item maintenance already set up in Sage, you can choose to have that image come across to the handheld. It'll come over as a thumbnail. You can click on that image and it'll bring up the full-size image. That's really good for items that may look similar, and it helps out new employees as they're learning to pick and put those items away. So once we have entered our item, I can do a lookup on the bin location field, and it'll show all of the bin locations that items located in, as well as the quantity on hand and the quantity allocated. So I can get a real quick idea of where these items are, how many I have, how many are already allocated or set aside for orders. And we can go into that and it'll show us, of course, the quantity on hand and quantity allocated. So for those of you that may be dealing with lotted or serialized items, the item inquiry will take that to that next step. So I can go ahead and choose my bin location, and the same with the lot. It'll show me all of the lot numbers in that location, as well as the quantity on hand and the quantity allocated. So you have a lot of information right there at your fingertips. So we're going to go on out and we're going to jump into the receiving side. So we want to show you how you'll process the receipt of goods, where Ron showed you go in, create the receipt of goods, distribute everything. We're going to show you how it's done from the handheld. We'll go in. If you have batches enabled, you can go ahead and choose your batch number. And now all you have to do is scan or enter that PO. Typically, our customers, to start off, are going to send barcode and purchase orders down to the warehouse, and the user will just scan that PO. Validates that that's a good PO, and it'll actually show me all of the items on the PO, as well as quantity received, quantity that was ordered, and how many are left. So I can go ahead, scan my item, validates that's a good item. I have it set as a default to bring everything into my receiving bin, and I'll tell it how many we're receiving. So we'll bring that in. We'll scan our next item. Now maybe that next item we scanned was not actually on that purchase order. It's going to let us know item not found in purchase order. So we have that real-time validation. It's communicating with Sage in real time, knows that item's not on the PO. Scan our next item into our receiving bin, scan the lot number that they sent us. We'll say we received 6 of that lot number. And we'll go ahead and bring in our second lot number as well. You do have ability to over-receive if you allow that. And you also have the ability to have the system prompt you if you've under-received. Our review feature is going to show the user everything they've scanned up to that point. They do have limited editing capabilities, so they can go in. Maybe they scanned a lot number by mistake and fix those mistakes on the fly. So once we're confident that everything we have received in is here, we'll go ahead and submit that. And that's actually going to go directly into our receipt of goods entry. So we'll go into our receipt of goods. We have our receipt of goods that was just created for our PO C16438. And I can go in, see everything that was received. And in those distribution tables that Ron showed us earlier, you'll see we've already filled in the lot numbers and the bin locations that was received into. So we basically eliminated all of the input into Sage. We validated the items are right. You don't have to try to understand your warehouse guy's handwriting anymore for those lot numbers and serial numbers. Everything is there and correct. At this point, you would just post as normal. But to point out, we do have auto post options. If you really like your guys out there and trust them, that there was no mistakes made, you can have that post automatically, and it'll turn that into a truly dynamic system. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and move on to transfers. So transfers are become very important, you know, when you're using a multi-bin system. Like Ron was saying, we have the ability to do those transfers in real time. I'm going to go ahead and bring up our multi-bin location inquiry here, and I want to find a location that we have no inventory in. So we should be good right here. We'll say F10L. You'll see we have no items in this location. So we're going to go to the handheld. We're going to go into transfers, and we're going to perform a bin-to-bin move. To do that, we're just using the same warehouse from and to. We'll scan our item. We'll tell it which bin we're pulling that from, which bin it's going to, which in this case will be F10L. So I can also type in with the on-screen keyboard that we have here, I can do a lookup for that bin, because I don't have a barcode for that, and it'll choose that bin location. And let's just say we want to move 56 into that location. So as soon as we hit send, that transfer has now been made. So as soon as I come back over here and I go into our F10L, you'll see here that the transaction's been made. We just transferred 56 into that location. And in the audit trail, I can actually see that it was user CS from the handheld that performed that. So I don't have to really do a lot of research to find out how that inventory got there. It tells me right here, user CS transferred quantity of 56 through a transfer inventory transaction. So nice and easy to see where everything is coming from and where it's going to. All right. Warehouse transfers do operate the same way. Of course, that's just going to go to a different warehouse. The biggest difference here is to actually update the warehouse transfer, you will have to go into transaction entry. So once that's created, it's automatically going to come in, create that transaction entry. And here is the warehouse transfer that we can just review and post as normal. Or of course, in the transaction entry, we have the auto post options as well. So as you see, everything's working in real time. It's very quick, it's validating, making sure everything's right. The next transaction we'll jump into is going to be physical count. Physical count, probably one of my favorites. It's going to save you a ton of time. We're looking at about 75% reduction is what we're seeing from our customers. And the majority of that time is in the data entry because data entry is completely eliminated. So in the physical count, everything is still set up in Sage as normal. You're going to go in, you can freeze inventory, whether it's a full-blown count, a cycle count. We can do cycle counts based on product lines, based on warehouse region, zones, whatever fits your process. So I'm going to go into the handheld. We're going to do what's called count by bin. I'll tell it we're starting warehouse 000, and I'm going to start at bin C20U. So I go to bin C20U, I just scan my item, tell it how many I counted. Next item, how many I counted. So that's all in that bin. So next bin, it says now go to C30L. And we'll just continue counting. Of course, lotted or serialized items, it will prompt us for our lot number. Let's see, we have. So once you go through, you count your areas. The handheld auto accumulates across not just one handheld, but all the handhelds you're using. You send that through, and that's automatically going to fill out your physical count entry. So when we come in here, we'll come down, and you'll see we have all of the scans that we just performed. So we have 45 of this item into C20U, 600, and so on. So at this point, you would just run your variance report, recount as necessary, and then complete the count. So it's a very, very easy process. And then, of course, on your cycle counts, those can be even quicker and done on a daily or weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. All right. So now we're going to jump into the shipping side. And there's a few different methods to shipping. We have the option to go into invoice data entry. We have the option to go into shipping data entry. Whichever process you're currently using, the solution will fit. So what we're going to show today is our standard shipping solution. Now, keep in mind, we do have advanced picking options that are going to follow bin location logic and guide you to that warehouse to go just once. And we are also integrate into some of the more advanced features in MultiBin Premium, such as Wave Batch. But for the demo today, we're just going to go into the main shipping. So we'll go in, we're going to go into shipping for shipping data entry, and they're going to type in the shipper ID out of Sage and now scan the sales order numbers. So we can scan our sales order, validates that that's an open sales order, does track the package level detail, and I have a dynamic list that I can use almost as a paperless pick ticket here that's going to show the item, how many were ordered, shipped, and unshipped. So I'll scan my item. We'll tell it which bin we're pulling that out of. Say we pulled 4 out of this bin. We're going to go with, now we're packing box number 2. Pull 1 out of this bin. Next item. We do have the option to auto fill bins depending on the item, depending on the setup of those product lines. So we'll go ahead and accept that one. Now let's say you scan an item that's not on that sales order. It's going to catch that. Make sure you're not shipping the wrong items to your customers. Go ahead and scan our next item. Tell it we're going to pull it out of this bin. Scan our lot number. And if you try to type in a quantity that is over, it's going to let you know quantity entered exceeds quantity left to ship. We do have options that will allow you to overship based on that user's profile. So if only certain people are allowed to overship, you can have that turned on. If I go into our lookup, you'll see that there's no unresolved items left because I have picked this order completely. And we picked it into 2 boxes. We're going to go ahead and send that through. And that has now gone into our shipping data entry. So here we have our shipping data entry. You can see all the items that I've shipped across 2 packages. We have the proper quantities in those packages. And at this point, if you're using a product like Starship, that would take over to complete your shipping process. Now, the process is going to be very similar for invoice data entry. If you're using invoice data entry, we'll just scan our sales order. You'll notice it just doesn't prompt for a shipper ID or package level detail. The same process goes for this though. I'm going to go ahead and not ship this order complete, so it'll have a back order. I'll go ahead and send that through. It's going to let me know that this order is short because I did not ship everything, and I'll tell it I do not want to continue scanning, and that's automatically going to come in, create the invoice data entry. So we have our invoice data entry that was just created. Go into our lines. It's going to follow your Sage backorder rules. And of course your distributions here as well. So it knows what bin location we took this from to properly relieve your inventory. So you can see how the handheld makes the process a lot more accurate, way more efficient, and makes the data entry non-existent into Sage. So with that, that's the final transaction we're showing. You can see that warehouse automation doesn't have to be overwhelming. We don't have to take it, to the top level of what the products are offered. It's able to be implemented. The warehouse users are able to learn it quickly, and you can start realizing the benefits and the cost savings immediately. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Adrian, and I think Adrian's going to open up for questions.
Thank you, Cody, so much, and Ron. That was a fantastic presentation. I would like to launch a poll and just remind the audience that there is a question mark next to your name on the webinar pane. If you click on that question mark, that will bring up a dialog box where you can enter your question. And as they come in, I will read them off for both Ron and Cody to answer. But in the meantime, we'll go ahead and launch our first poll here, which is our only poll. So, are you interested in learning more about any of the following? If the audience could just take a moment to let us know, and you can select all that apply. So, the newly released MultiBin standard version, using MultiBin locations for your items, using iOS and Android to work in your warehouse, implementing a warehouse management system in the next 6 months, or implementing a warehouse management system in the next 6 months to a year or even further out. Let's see. How is the data transmitted from the handheld or Wi-Fi? Thank you, Cindy.
Excellent question. So depending on the device you're using, essentially what we're looking for is internet connectivity. So typically that is done through Wi-Fi, but we do have a lot of customers that are using cellular devices as well if they have remote warehouses without internet. So it's really up to you, but the recommendation is definitely a strong Wi-Fi network in your warehouse.
And we have a question from Kurt. Thank you, Kurt. What happens if multiple people are doing transactions from the same bin and the same part number at the same time?
That's another excellent question. The great thing about the handhelds is since we are connected to the system in real time, the handhelds are all aware of each other. So unlike batch systems that are syncing batch files back and forth to the handheld that would not be able to catch that situation, our handhelds will recognize that and would not allow that to happen. And to expand on that, that also means you can have multiple handhelds receiving an order or shipping an order at the same time as well.
And we have another question from Cindy. Thank you. What is Wi-Fi ISN?
Okay, I'm not quite sure I know what that is, so we may need some clarification.
And Cindy, if you could elaborate on that, that'd be great. What if Wi-Fi, oh, okay, she didn't complete her question. What if Wi-Fi isn't an option? Is there a docking station? Thank you, Cindy.
Okay, so there's not a docking station. What'll happen is all the transactions that you have seen today do have an offline mode available. So if that Wi-Fi goes out when you're in the middle of a transaction, you can still continue, and once you get back in Wi-Fi, it will sync back into Sage. Now, to start the process, you would at least have to have one small Wi-Fi hotspot to initiate the scanning.
And we have a question from Brian. Thank you, Brian. How do you add shipping costs on the handheld to the sales order or invoice if you charge customers for that cost?
So that is actually handled, we'll say, the step after scan code and one software leaves off. That's typically handled by your shipping solution, either usually imported back by Starship, or if you're using like UPS World Ship, FedEx Ship Manager. Once you have that information, it'll either have to be synced back in if you have the integration, or you have to manually put it into shipping or invoice. So we don't really touch that piece.
And we have a question from Jason. Thank you, Jason. Does ScanCo have the ability to sort in reverse alpha order or other user set orders?
So we can, and I'm assuming we're talking about the lookup fields. Each field you can touch the header to sort it in alphabetical or reverse.
And Kurt has a question. Thank you, Kurt. How does this work with shop flooring work orders on the production side?
So the handheld piece that you saw today does not automate anything on the work order side. It can automate bill of material production entry, but when we're talking about work order, that would be WO scan product through one software, and that also has the full integration into the MultiBin product that you saw.
I can add to that too. You can always use the ScanCo handheld for your distribution part of your business, and then for manufacturing, you can still use the WO scan for work order integration, just like Cody said. But if you didn't have that, then you can still do work order transactions, just like I was showing you earlier. Using some of our automatic features will save you a lot of time if you don't have lot serial goods. If you do like backflush, auto issues, or even in bill of materials to automatically do things for you, so you don't always have to select locations. Thank you.
And can pallet IDs be entered on the fly, or do they have to be predefined? Additionally, could the same pallet ID exist for different items? Thank you, Kevin.
Excellent question. I'll take the kind of the first part. You can create and define the pallet IDs on the fly from the handheld. Pretty much every piece on the ACS that you've seen is fully supported on the handheld, so we can create pallets, transfer pallets, disassemble, ship, pick to pallets, all of that can be done on the handheld. As far as the second piece of the question on having the same pallet ID for different items, I might let Ron take that one because I don't quite understand.
When I heard that question, I assumed mixed items. So you can have same item, mixed items, just fine. So if you have, any number of items in your pallet ID, that's just fine, if that's what the question was.
And Kevin, we'll definitely get back to you to elaborate just to make sure everything's clear. And I wanted to remind the audience that we do have a poll open, and I see that 56% of you have voted. If we could move the dial there to 100%, that would be awesome. So if you could just take a moment to complete this poll on the screen. Thank you so much for that. Tracy has a question. Where will we be able to watch this again? This video will be posted to ERP VAR's YouTube channel. It will be publicly posted, and you can get to that channel by going to youtube.com/ERP VAR. All of our webinars are posted, so it's a webinar catalog, and we have several with One Software, and this will be the latest one. And we will also send a recording of this webinar out to everyone who registered, along with the contact information for One Software. So you'll have that in an email. Make sure that you whitelist erpvar.com in your email manager so that we can get through to your emails. Sometimes, since we do send our emails through HubSpot, they might fall in your junk folder. So we don't want that to happen. We want you to receive our emails, so make sure you do that, and you will get the follow-up email, which will either be sent out today or at the latest tomorrow. And we have another question from Tracy. Thank you. Does this integrate with JobOps?
There's both of us that probably can answer that. It's in progress. JobOps is working on that currently. Scanco might be on a little different path, but I think it's going to. Cody, if you want to.
Yeah, so we don't automate any of the JobOps transactions. We do work alongside JobOps. And then once again on the automating JobOps side, through JDB, the manufacturing arm of One Software, we do have JOScan that can automate the JobOps transactions.
And we have a question from Terry. Thank you, Terry. How is the handheld scanner used for bill of materials?
For bill of materials, we are automating the production entry transaction. And depending on how you have your bill of materials set up and the components you're using, we can require the user to scan all of the components, or you can do a back flush where you just tell the system what parent item you're creating, how many you created, and it'll create the bill of material on that. And we can go through that a little more detail if you want to reach out to us after the webinar.
And I have another question from Brian. Thank you, Brian. On a computer, what software system is required for this version?
It's probably for you, Cody. We for this our software, and this will probably apply to Cody too. We're good with all versions of Sage 100. But go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say the same. All versions of Sage 100, and as far as the actual operating systems, that just really depends on what you're trying to do. But typically, as long as Sage is installed, we're good to go.
And can this be integrated with serialized items?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yep. You bet.
And Kevin,
it's really handy with the license plate too. If you, with the pallets, and let's say, or even case packs, and if you have, any number of serial numbers that you want to track within packages and pallets and so on, you can move those packages between locations and ship them out. So they're great, great advantage using pallet IDs along with serial numbers also.
And Tracy would just like some clarification on that YouTube channel, so I'm going to spell it out. It's www.erp, V as in Victor, AR.com. So that's erpvar.com. www.youtube.com/ERP, V as in Victor, AR. That is our YouTube channel. That's where all of our video recordings are housed. And we welcome you to take a look there. And this will be posted sometime soon, right after this presentation. We'll post this recording, Tracy, so you can view that as well. But we will be sending a follow-up email to you. So just make sure your email address accepts emails from erpvar.com, especially Adrian, ADRIAN, myself, at erpvar.com, and you will get that follow-up email complete with recording. Is there a minimum software version for Sage 100? Thank you, Jason. So is there a minimum software version?
So I would think if I had to pick one, it would be 4.4 and above. And the more you could do 5.0, which is 2013 and above, it would be even better. For the software within Sage, 4.4 and above.
And that does it for the questions, and we're 4 minutes after the hour. If you are still on with us, I see 74% of you have voted. Thank you so much for those of you who voted in taking our poll. If we could get the rest of you to answer this poll, that would be awesome. So we're at 76%. I see the dials moving. And we're going to have to wrap it up here pretty quickly here. We're at 81%, 83%. We have another question from Kurt. So if everybody can stay on the line for this question. We manufacture electronics, and each one is serialized and tracked. How would the tracking work? Thank you, Kurt.
So essentially what will happen on the serialized items is anytime you scan, either on the receiving side, physical count, any of the transactions, the handheld will prompt for the serial number. And all of that will go directly back into Sage, into the appropriate distribution tables. So it'll work very much like you saw in the demo today where I was scanning lot numbers, works identical to that, just uses serial numbers instead.
If I can complement that then, we provide a add-on, it's called expiration date control and vendor lot traceability, and allows just by using lot or serial numbers in your production process, bill of materials or work order, the system will track the trace history for you. And so in other words, if you did a completion or sub-assemblies, you can, in a tree form, you probably notice on some of the screens, we provide a tree on the left-hand side of the quantity on hand information. We make it easy for you to view the tree, all the serial numbers within all the sub-assemblies, finished goods that you have, and then we, of course, do a real nice thing to search out also for serial numbers on our traceability screen. So you could trace up from components on up, or from finished, or do what issued from the finished goods. Sorry for the long answer.
And I am sharing the results of our poll on the screen. Thank you everybody for participating and spending an hour of your day with us. We know that time is hard to come by. especially in our ERP software world. So we appreciate all the time that you can spend with us. And thank you so much, Cody and Ron, for your excellent presentation. And just keep a lookout for that email with the recording and contact information. Cody and Ron, would you like to close out with any remarks?
Just a quick thank you to everyone for taking the time out, and thank you, Adrian, for getting this all put together.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's my pleasure. Everybody have a fantastic day. Thank you so much.
Take care.